Om Ajnanatirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksuram Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karati Vachalam Pangolanghayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamahang Vande Sri Gurun Dinataranam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jata Paragamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatang Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitangscha Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himavadivyascha Visundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Bhakti Bhavan Janardan Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Rakshmi Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Any questions?
Giridhari Sharanam Gacchami.
Om. Well, first, here, are there any questions from anyone here? Pause. Okay, Nityananda Das.
We have a question from Naveen Krishna Prabhu, Lachtadam. Dandavas to all devotees from Russia. Maybe this is a stupid question.
To or from?
From Russia.
All right.
Maybe this
from
is
Russia with Dandavats.
With Dandavats.
Right.
Maybe this is a stupid question, but I want to understand. He's saying, there is a statement of ISKCON, go back to Godhead. This means that ordinary souls have been in the eternal...
It's not just from ISKCON. It's from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Saraswati Thakur, everyone says it, but Prabhupada had Back to Godhead magazine, but continue.
Mm-hmm. I'm just quoting what he's saying.
Yes, I know, but I'm just clarifying, lest someone thinks that that is unique to ISKCON. Bhaktivinoda says it, Saraswati Thakur said it, Prabhupada said it, Guru Maharaj and Gurudev, everyone.
Okay.
So he continues, this means that ordinary souls have been in the eternal world of dedication before this life. But there is saying...
No, it doesn't. Oh, okay, this is the question.
But there is a saying of Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
There are two classes of souls, jivas, who come into this world. One class comes from the spiritual Vaikuntha planets by the necessity of Nitya Lila, the eternal pastimes of Krishna. Another comes by constitutional necessity from Brahmajyoti. This, end of quote. This means that ordinary souls were not in the spirit world yet. And we concluded that the statement of ISKCON, go back to Godhead, is not true. But now in Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, there are statements, there is no time in the spiritual world, then we can consider that the Svarupa is eternal. End of quote. And that means that the statement of ISKCON, go back to Godhead, is the right thing. Can we reason like this?
I'll say something and Maharaj will say something. So we have to understand, what is Godhead? So, when Sanatana Goswami says to Mahaprabhu, Kayami Keniyamai Jari Tapitroy, Iha Nahi Jani Kamone Hitohoi. Who am I, and why am I suffering from the threefold miseries of existence? Adhyatmik, Adibhotik, Adidevat. Self-induced miseries, miseries from others, and acts of God, divine, natural disasters and such. Saying, if I don't know this, iha nahi jani, kamone hitohoi, how can I know what is beneficial for me? That's his question. And Mahaprabhu answered by saying, Jive Swarupai Krishnera Nitya Das. That the Swarup of the Jiva, that means his actual original form, is eternally a servant of Krishna. Then what is the situation? It says, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti Beda Bed Prakash. It's a type of prakash or a manifestation that's similar But there's difference. How is it similar? Like a ray of sunshine and the sun. Qualitatively, more or less the same, but quantitatively different. The difference is in magnitude. So, finite and infinite. So, and what does he say about those jivas whose swarup is Nitya Krishnadas? They are Krishnera Tatastha Shakti. They are the Tatastha Shakti of Krishna. What does Tata mean? You know, like on where there's a river, and there's a river bank, right? The bank of the river, we say. So there's a point where the river bank is going in the water, where the two meet. Where is it? It's like an imaginary position. Is it water or is it land? Where's that place where land becomes water, water becomes land? That's called the margin or the tata. So it's interesting. He's saying the jivas, they come from they're tatastha shakti. They come from that of Godhead. This is the tata of Godhead, or the outskirts, the marginal area. And from the margin, not deep in the center in Goloka or in Vaikuntha, but because having once gone, one never returns. Not that deep where the swarup is fully activated and engaged in unalloyed devotion, right? An unconditional, eternal, which would mean non-breaking, non-flagging or discontinued devotional mood and service, but from the tata, the margin. And what does it mean? The outskirts of the spiritual world, which we're calling Godhead, and the material world. So from that zone, the margin, sometimes called no man's land, in between, you can go this way, get incorporated into the spiritual world, the serving world, or go that way and into the material world. And what did Guru Maharaj liken it to? He says the satanic mania represented by in Milton's Paradise Lost, where they're given a choice. They say, do you want to serve in heaven or reign in hell? That means you're in a marginal, an in-between position. You're given a choice. Serve in heaven, be an eternal servitor, or reign in hell. Come into the material world and get a chance to express your exploiting tendency, establish yourself as some sort of absolute center, and from there try and extend the circumference of your exploiting capacity. So, in one sense, we have come from there, but where from there? It's not just one thing. Goloka, as Guru Maharaj will say, what to speak of this Tata region, the marginal plane? He says Vaikuntha itself is the southern hemisphere of the spiritual world, whereas Goloka is the upper part, the uppermost region. So even in the Vaikuntha world, there's gradation from Vaikuntha to Ayodhya, Ramlila, to Dwaraka, to Mathura, Vrindavan, Govardhan, Radha Kund. And then again, banks or in the water. So there's gradation everywhere and everything. So what Guru Maharaj is saying, and it's in line with what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has expressed in the Jaiva Dharma, that from the, how shall we say, the onset of their existence, some jivas, according to their innate tendency, they're incorporated into the Vaikuntha world or beyond. And others opt for expressing their exploiting tendencies in the material region. But that is likened to a dream, an illusion, a delusion. So their swarup of Krishnadas, Saraswati Thakur says, is held in abeyance. It's in a suppressed position, not being expressed. But then, if in this world you're very fortunate, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, you come in connection with agents, Vaikuntha agents, and they, by hearing from them, Krishna's Prema Nitya Siddha Shadra Kabunoi, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koroye Udoy. hearing from them, it awakens this inner tendency that was within us all along. To be Krishna Das, Radha Dasi, to be a servitor, the servitor identity, as opposed to the deluded notion of being an exploiter, a master, and not a servant. So it's there, but in a suppressed position. Yes, Mark.
So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see that in describing the devotees, they speak of the sadhakas and those who are parshads, the associates of the Lord, and those who are sometimes the translation of sadhaka, practitioners, but it's often used sometimes given the translation of neophytes. The sadhakas are those who are engaging in sadhana bhakti to be able to develop their devotion and their desire to serve the Lord and to serve the devotees. So they're practitioners and they're following the principles of sadhana bhakti, not necessarily in a mechanical way, not to be exactly equated with Vaidhi bhakti, but they're servitors. Then also in the Gita, it refers to two kinds of persons, the Nityabharas and the Nityasiddhas. Or
Kara and Akshara.
Yeah.
Fallible, infallible.
Or also we could say those who are Buddha, those who are eternally conditioned, and those who are eternally, you could use the word, liberated, all right? So, an interesting point. Well, for me it was interesting. There's some talk that, about the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, and that we're in the, we've talked about Madhavendra Puri being some special point within the Madhva Sampradaya where Mahaprabhu's full conception was first shown. Now, when I was traveling in India, one time I went to the place of the Tattvavadis. They're described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's in the words of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they're described to have shown themselves as not as what would be the word is have shown themselves not in as inferior
and gyan.
It's described as inferior practitioners, and the reason it says is they basically Mahaprabhu asked what is the goal of life and what is the means of achieving it, and they tell Mahaprabhu that the perfection of life is to follow the path of Varnashram Dharma, and by practicing Varnashram Dharma one can attain liberation. And then Mahaprabhu reacts and says, actually, this is not the goal of life, and you are saying that because you're trying to flatter me. You can see, obviously, that I'm a sannyasi, so you're telling within the Varnashram Dharma, what is the highest point in the Varnashram Dharma, the system of Varnas and ashramas. Of Varnas, Brahman, and of the different divisions. What will he say? The Varna and the ashrams. Of the highest ashram is the sannyasi, but the sannyasi in the traditional system would only be a Brahmin, so Brahmin sannyasi. So he says, you see me as a sannyasi, so you're trying to flatter me in this way. And nowhere does it actually say that liberation is the goal of life for Vaishnavas. So he says, in this way, the Tattvavadis are shown to be inferior Vaishnavas. And Mahaprabhu says the actual process of devotion begins with Shravanam Kirtanam, like this. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Bandhanam Archanam Sakya Dashyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Mahaprabhu says it begins with hearing and chanting. And the perfection of this practicing life is to develop love of Godhead. So when it says Nityabada, and the point I also saying, when I met some of these Tattvavadis in South India near my memory is so...
Udupi?
Yeah, but it's
Srirangam?
No, more where the incense was produced. Now they have a technology center there.
Madras?
No, in
Bangalore?
Bangalore. So near the outskirts of Bangalore, I met the Tattvavadis. And these persons, you know, to show, I don't say that they represent the thinking of the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, but they were telling me there's two kinds of souls. One of them is, you know, they said is a tamasic jiva and can never attain, you know, Krishna Prem, can never attain, you know, which is really a blasphemous statement to say by the chanting of the holy name, you know, one cannot achieve devotion. So when you hear in the Gita, then it says Nitya Siddha and Nitya Bada, then somebody can say, well, how can, if that's the case, how can one be a Nitya Bada, eternally conditioned soul? The way I would explain is that the soul by nature is Nitya. The soul's nature is eternal. So if that soul dedicates himself to the mundane conception of life and to trying to exploit this material nature, as Srila Goswami Maharaj is explaining, you know, basically the jiva soul in the mundane conception corresponds something to, Satan said, it is better to rule over hell than to serve in heaven. So more or less that is a kind of a conception that is present in the material world. The jiva, rather going towards the light, has come to darkness, trying to be able to exploit the resources of the material nature. And so, you know, so you can say, well, but why Nitya Bada? Why eternally conditioned? That means he can never attain, you know, love of Godhead? Well then, if that were true, you know, there'd be statements like, what is it? Sarva Siddhi Hoy.
I said that Krishna Prema Nitya Siddha
Well, no, I'm
Sadhya Kavanoi Shravanari Shuddha Chite Koroye.
But I'm talking about the lava matra. I'm talking about
Sadhu Sangha,
Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastri Koi, lava matra, Sarva Siddhi.
Lava matra Sadhu Sanghe Sarva Siddhi Hoy.
Lava matra Sadhu Sanghe Sarva Siddhi Hoy. No?
Yeah.
So by that lava matra, even moments of association with a pure devotee, one can attain all perfection.
Prabhupada gave a good example in a writing called The Light of the Bhagavad, where he said, there's people, obviously this is a complex thing to comprehend, because Nitya Siddha, Nitya Baddha, and then how does Nitya Baddha go from Nitya Baddha to Nitya Siddha? He said, when the sky is clouded, you can distinguish between the clouded portion of the sky and the clear or unclouded portion of the sky. So when the clouds are removed, you can't distinguish between that portion which was once clouded and the portion which was never clouded. So, and elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, it also says that, because the Vedas say, asango hyayam purusha, that the soul, it is never actually contaminated or infected by the modes of nature. And what is it likened to? So the moon is reflecting on a pool of water. Like we know one of the most, stock photo images of India is the Taj Mahal. And they, if possible, they like to show the Taj Mahal at night, and they have this pool of water in front of it. And if you can see the moon over the Taj Mahal and the water, then it's an excellent picture. But the Bhagavatam says, like a moon reflecting in a pool of water, if you look in the water at the reflection and you agitate the pool, you'll see the moon become distorted. right? It'll become wavy and it won't retain its shape. But actually the moon is fixed in one place. It's totally unaffected by what's happening to the reflection. That's just a relative perspective. So the Bhagavatam is saying the soul's actually situated spiritually. That's why we can say Nitya Krishna Das. But at present, being misdirected toward the reflection, as we see the reflection, we're identifying that. So if we agitate the pool, we see it being distorted. So when the jiva is identifying with the body as the self, it sees the body's being born, growing old, becoming diseased, and dying, and identifying with that. When in actuality, the soul, as we hear in the Gita from Krishna, it isn't born, it doesn't die, you can't burn it, you can't drown it, the soul doesn't get diseased. This is all through being diluted. The body is the biological expression of the soul's delusion.
So Maharaj, this is the point I want to make, as it was said earlier, Jiva Swarupoi Krishna Nitya Das. Now Nitya, the quality of the soul, eternal servant of Krishna, and that remains in all conditions, and the soul is eternal. So the idea of Nitya Siddha or Nitya Bada, it's because the soul itself is eternal. If you say, when did he come into this material nature? Since time immemorial. When the soul is eternally in the service of Krishna, you have to throw away how's this going? You have to throw away the conception of time as related in this material world. Time is eternal, but if you're going to impose chronology or a time conception on the soul, that he's eternally conditioned. Yes, he's eternally conditioned because he's conditioned and he is eternal.
When he's in the conditional
existence. And when he's in the spiritual existence, he's Nitya Siddha, he's in that spiritual, and he will, it's
and we're told that they do not fall from there, right? Like having once gone, one never returns. Otherwise, it would open the door to the notion that repeatedly you're in the spiritual world and somehow you become deluded, fall into mind, go into material existence, go there again, you become distracted, whatever, and you fall into material consciousness. That's not possible. That's why the Guru Maharaj's point is that sort of deviation or fall, if you want to use the word that's most commonly used, is only possible from the tata, the marginal position. Whereas if someone is already incorporated into Vaikuntha or Goloka, and remember, this isn't like a GPS, a map, a cartography of the way we conventionally conceive of continents or locations. They're planes of consciousness. This is what's important to understand. Vaikuntha, sometimes Guru Maharaj is called Seva Mayoyam Loka. The spiritual world is constructed out of serving tendency and consciousness, not only, but consciousness enriched with devotional tendencies. So what distinguishes one plane from another is degrees of dedication. So the idea that someone who's in the ultimate plane of dedication, meaning Goloka, the highest possible expression of dedication and self-sacrificing, would fall from that position into the plane of exploitation is not only untenable, impossible, but horrible. So as Guru Maharaj said, only from the marginal position can you fall, where you have a choice between this world and that world. There they can. But again, it's not falling in a literal physical sense. It means becoming, the Bhagavatam says, Bayam Ditya Vinibeshi Tatsyad Ishad Apetasya Viparya Yoshmitri. forgetful or unmindful of your actual spiritual potential and position, you become outer directed, externally directed, and identifying with the dream world of material existence. And how, in that condition, eternally. Time, as we can see, we're in the realm of time and space. That's where the spiritual world, we're told, the time there is, it's eternally forever. Here, we have the sense of, the past, present, and future. There is no such thing in the spiritual world. Only when you're conditioned and confined to the world of time and space are these things applicable. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in the Jaiva Dharma, gives an example. He says, like water, the Dharma, the natural position of water is liquidity, right? Like here, we see it flows, it has certain, that's its natural position. But if you freeze it and make ice, while it's in its unnatural condition, you can say, oh, look, it's hard, it's cold, it's showing all these other, qualities or characteristics. He's saying, but that's not its permanent characteristics is like this, liquidity. It's only in this unnatural state that it can be perceived as being hard and cold. So when it melts and goes back to its natural condition, the ice thing becomes irrelevant.
So also there's a nice analogy regarding the water. It says that our heart in the conditioned state is full of so many, unwanted things. And those things appear like hard, and it's how we can get, if you had to chip hard ice, how will you get it out? But when the Lord appears within one's heart, all those hard things will melt away like ice. And, so the question isn't of just a mechanical process. Also, in a conversation with Haridas Thakur, with Mahaprabhu, there's a question that if all the souls are liberated,
then who'd be in the material?
Then there'll be
the jail's empty.
Then there'll be a vacuum here in this material world.
Yes.
And then it's said that
Mahaprabhu.
Then the Lord will.
No, he says, because he says, don't worry about that. Already you desire it, your wish is fulfilled. But Guru Maharaj said, it's like if you grant amnesty and say, all right, we're going to empty all the jails, we're letting it's a special deal, all the prisoners go free. He said, tomorrow it'll be filled up with new offenders.
Yeah, so...
But the nice thing is that there he said, Mahaprabhu says to Haridas, for one who possesses crores of kamadhenus, right, what is the loss of one she-goat? Meaning the she-goat's the material world.
And it is also said, then the Lord will awaken so many sleeping souls
in a slumber,
and bring them again and fill up again the material world.
Yes.
So the statement, not even implication, the statement is that there are many souls sleeping in the Tatastha plane, and they will be awakened and again filling up the material world.
Sometimes Guru Maharaj calls it the undifferentiated plane. So they're in this neutral state, and then what do they say? They differentiate. Everything's undifferentiated, and they make a judgment on something. And the Bhagavatam says, because sometimes we see these so-called yogis or spiritual practitioners, they do many austerities. People say, oh, they're very spiritual, and they rise up and they transcend body consciousness, and they're going higher and higher. The Bhagavatam says, aruhya krishchena param padam tatak pato hanti adho anadrita jasmai rangreya. They rise up, but because it's not just a question of being spiritually conscious and not conscious of the body, because they do not worship the lotus feet of Krishna, then you can't enter the servitor world. They again come down to this plane. So they rise up and come down. So you'll hear Guru Maharaj say, passport is not enough, you need a visa. So we know, like, devotees get very excited. They get a passport, and then they want to go somewhere, and they go like, oh, but you have to get a visa. So he's saying that general spiritual consciousness and development, that's like a passport. But visa, when are you given a visa? You know why a government issues anyone a visa, actually? Understand this principle. They already know you want to come, right? That's a given. You applied. But why do they give you a visa? Not for your own purpose, right? The reason they give you a visa is they have determined it's in the interest of the country to bring you in. That's why they give anybody a visa. They've determined it's in our interest to give you entrance into our country. So the spiritual world is like that. That's why Guru Maharaj said, it's not for tourists, or you're very curious. Oh, I hear Goloka is very beautiful. Not like that. They have to say, wait, are you a servitor or a tourist? And you say, no, and so they will, Yogamaya is watching, saying, oh, this person's a good servitor. We could use them in the spiritual world to be an increase of the service of Krishna. So then you're brought into that plane, but not for any other purpose.
But there also, when we say that the jiva soul attaining spiritual world won't come back to this material world.
Right. Which is the plane of consciousness.
Yeah. But also then we hear the story of the Parsha devotees. Now
right. And that's what, and the question, just a little inset. Guru Maharaj, the person got it right. He said, it's either from the Tata, either that, or, this is the key phrase, out of a necessity of Leela. And that's when a Parsha comes down.
Yeah. And there are Parsha devotees who will come from the highest plane, and they will come to this material world for the purpose of, one idea of this material world is that it is an opportunity also to give the jivas a chance to awaken to their eternal Leela.
Yes, there's that reason, but also what is most often misinterpreted is they will say, oh, there's a pastime where one gopi cursed a cowherd boy and he fell out of the spiritual. This is supposed to be an answer to that. Okay?
It's not an answer.
No, it is. But it's half an answer. And as Guru Maharaj said, half truth is worse than falsity. What it is, it's a pastime. So in this play, like we're playing sometimes, and you go, well, then you can go to hell. Right? So they're playing in the spiritual world, and somebody so-called offends another person, and the guy says, then I curse you to go to hell. And where's hell? That's our home address. It's the material world. So then that cowherd boy descends into this world, and who does he become? Like the one in Krishna's pastimes who he becomes one of the asuras. I forget which.
Asura?
No, the one they want to have Rasa Leela, and he comes and starts passing urine and stool and trying to capture the gopis, and they're scared. I just can't. My brain's not working.
Vivida Gorilla.
It's not Vivida, but it's another one. But like, same thing. So then that devotee comes down and plays that part of an asura, and where? In Vrindavan, in Krishna Leela. And so Guru Maharaj would say it like this. He said, if a king says, I want to box, or wrestle, I want to fight with somebody, he's saying, they don't go out and get a man from the street, right? They get one of his own men. So they go, someone who's in their group, and they go, the king wants to fight, give him a good fight. And they go, all right, So, in other words, to even play that part in Krishna Leela, you have to be an exalted eternal associate of the Lord. It's not a job for an ordinary conditioned soul.
I always like that one statement in one of the books of Guru Maharaj. He says, who can stand to fight with Krishna?
Yes.
And I always think of, there's the person comes to town and he's got his champ, and he says, which one of you will stand and fight with my champion? If you last 30 seconds, I'll give you $100, you know.
Right.
That's the way I always heard that. Who will stand to fight with Krishna?
Right. But I'm saying, in that case, so then we see, as he said, out of a necessity of Leela. So Yogamaya and Baladev, who cast and script Krishna Leela, so they know, all right, there will be a pastime of Krishna in Prapancha Leela and Gokula Vrindavan at this time. So in the spiritual world, the inspiration comes for the mock fight between the gopi and the cowherd boy. So she curses him, and then he has to fall into the material world and take birth as this asura, so he's ready to stand and fight with Krishna in the pastime. So it's a very beautiful thing. In other words, they're not actually falling. They don't enter some sort of mundane consciousness.
Just like Jai and Vijay, you know, they come to this material world, but you cannot use that as saying that this is an example how the jiva falls to this material world. First of all, you know, don't just banty around the term jiva. You know?
Right.
And you know, we're talking about sadhakas.
And they're Vishnu Parshadas.
Yeah, and we're talking about persons who come from, misuse that word, but persons who come from the spiritual world for the purposes of the Lord.
And interestingly, those two associates, Guru Maharaj further added, again, another interesting point, like, where are they located? At the gates of Vaikuntha, right? That means the outside, the gate. He added that to the equation. But it's out of a necessity of Leela. So they're told, and we'll take 3 births as demons. So who are they? Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Great pastimes, Nrsingadev and Varaha Avatar, Shishupal and Dantavakra. As we were telling recently, when Prahlad Maharaj was a boy, when they would ask him to do the alphabet, you know, Kaka Gagana, Papa Baba Ma, like when he'd go Krishna, he'd say Krishna and faint. He couldn't get past Ka, which is the first letter in Sanskrit. Then he'd try to get to Ga, Papa Gaga, Govinda, he'd faint. That's Prahlad Maharaj. What are we told about Shishupal? Like the little girl, when he was a toddler, he was insulting Krishna. The first words out of his mouth were insults to Krishna. So, I mean, there's some humor there.
What about the Ram Leela also?
But I'm saying, so Shishupal and Dantavakra. I don't know so much about Dantavakra, and Ravana and Kumbhakarna. But Ravana, we know something more about him. But so you see, so one pastime, he's directly interacting with Nrsingadev. Is that a man from the street? Or someone descended by Vaikuntha? Who's the other person? Directly playing with the Varaha avatar. And man from the street or descended from Vaikuntha? Same thing, Shishupal, Dantavakra, and then Ravana and Ramachandra. Man from the street or eternal associate?
And how about their encore?
Jagai and Madhai and Gaur Leela. That's who they are. Krishna, Kavi Karnapur says in Gaur Leela, Jai and Vijay, or Ravana, they're Jagai and Madhai. And you know what their names are? Jagadananda and Madhavananda. Jagai and Madhai is nickname, but it's Jagadananda and Madhavananda Misra were their names.
And after they become, after they get the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu, there is a complete transformation.
Yes. And it's mentioned that their past was never brought up again. The devotees didn't think like, well, I remember when you were... They didn't think like that anymore. Once they see the Vaishnava transformation, and this is in Nyaya, which is Vedic logic, called Nagna Matrika Nyaya. which means the fault of the faulty logic of the naked mother. If a child thinks, she may be my mother now, but she was once a naked girl, that's offensive thinking. So we're told, who's before you is your mother. You shouldn't be thinking like that. But in her past, no, that's an offense. You see mother and only. So it's saying, when someone is expressing their Vaishnavata, we don't think about the past. That's offensive to view a Vaishnava in terms of their past. What's the polite word?
Even in mundane logic, it's also a fallacy to.
Yes. Fallacy. That's the word.
To see someone in terms of their original position. That's like the saying in Bengali is, because my mother came into this world naked, does that mean she's going to be,
at present, I should see her in that way.
And she's not going to walk around naked her whole life. That's obviously not.
Hopefully.
So, then, as I was saying, either position, the soul is eternal, whether it's eternal servitor or in this mundane world.
And Guru Maharaj said this, because there are people saying, like, well, what is it like when you go back to the spiritual world or something? He said, it's like you awaken from a dream. And this is very interesting, because he said, when you awaken from a dream, you know immediately, oh, I'm late, right? Your whole identity comes, you realize what I was thinking about in the dream is nothing. You forget that. It didn't really happen. In the dream, you're afraid, a tiger's coming, and then you wake up, no tiger, and all of that didn't even happen, and you realize, I'm late, I got to get to work, there's so many things I have to do. And he said, and the other people in the spiritual world, they go, were you absent for some time? Where have you been? They all know you know yourself, you know what you're supposed to do, they know what you're supposed to do. It's all instantaneous. It's not like you have to gradually learn this. So as a dream is unreal. It says in Charitamrita, that famous Dvaita Badra Submanodharm, A Bal, A Manda, Gopal? A Balo, A Manda, A Sub Brahm. So it's saying, a dream, is it Balo or Manda? Is it good or dream, bad dream? It's a dream, it's not real. And of course, at present, we're thinking, no, this is real. You can, sit on it and hit it.
I remember one dream I had. It was kind of a strange dream. When I was young, I would dream that I'm...
Put that on pause.
I would dream that I wake up and I'm late for school and I'm running to catch the school bus, and when I get to the school bus station, the place where the school bus is, I realize I'm still in my pajamas. And that was a recurrent dream.
Well, on that note, I was in such anxiety, stressed out by school about that and waking up late. So when I went home, I looked at the clock, and it might have been upside down or something. I went, oh my God. I got up, I ate breakfast, we had to wear like suit, tie, everything. And I'm standing at the bus stop waiting for the bus, and a cop car pulls up, and they roll down the window, they go, hi, what are you doing? I said, I'm waiting for the bus. They said, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, because I was supposed 7, the clock was upside down. They go, why don't you go home, son? I'm like, okay. Can't be too early.
Yeah. That
might have been during the psychedelic era.
No, but another dream I always had in relation with school is I dreamed always that there was a test and I hadn't prepared for it.
That's a common, if you read on the internet, they'll say that's a common dream. And it continues for some people in life. They're back in school and they're not prepared for a test. But the good news is, we know, when you wake up, the dream, but I'll say this more, because not to repeat, we also know, interestingly, there's an interim state, and this might be more relevant to us, where you're like the dream is still there, but you're waking up, and you're sort of caught between the waking world and the dreaming world for a few minutes. And that might be where we're a little bit at sometimes. So that dream, it still has some pull on us, but we're gradually waking up and coming out of it. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in this, talking about devotees, because we'll say, when you get initiated and you surrender to Guru, you become free from karma. But devotees will go like, I hope so, but I still kind of feel like there's some karmic stuff going on. So he said, yeah, when you have a fan and you pull the plug, what happens? Does the blade stop immediately? No, for some time it keeps going like this. But if an expert will say, no, it's slowing down, and then what? It stops. Once it's unplugged, there may be what we call some residual movement or momentum. But Guru Maharaj said, the expert will say, like, you're finished. He said, in fact, when you get an expert doctor, like sometimes people have a sickness or an ailment, and they'll say, someone else will say, who's your doctor? And they'll go, Dr. so-and-so. Oh, you're cured. You're cured. He said, it's like it. So when you connect to the Vaishnava Guru, you're cured. Today or tomorrow, or maybe an extended tomorrow, but you're cured because you're under the guidance of an expert. And two things. Brahma Sangita, karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. When you become a devotee, your karma is cancelled. Prabhupada would say, and sarvadharmam paritaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvang sarva papebhyo mokshaya shami masujaha. Prabhupada said, Krishna says, when you surrender to me, I cancel your karma. It's finished. And you say, no, but I have so many obligations, and maybe if I don't meet these obligations, some blame will come to me for being irresponsible or not acting properly. And Krishna says, don't worry, I will take care of that. You don't worry, you surrender to me, I take care of everything. You're no longer obligated to anyone or a debtor or any such thing. And sometimes, what should we do if someone passes away? Whenever Sanatana Goswami, Prabhu says in his Brihad Bhagavatamritam Tika, if for some reason a devotee cannot perform some sort of family obligation, he said 30 billion demigods do it on his behalf. So don't worry.
So that actually, the nature of this question, really what our concern will be is to develop a loving relationship with the Lord. That is, savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje. So that is what we want to do. We want to develop a loving service relationship with the Lord.
And that comes primarily from serving Guru and Vaishnava. Guru Maharaj told the story of the devotee. He's doing so much seva for Guru and Vaishnava, so they realize he's now liberated soul. They send down the Vaikuntha chariot, beautiful, made out of Vaikuntha consciousness, right, to take him back to home, back to Godhead. And what does he say? I don't have time for Vaikuntha. I'm serving my Gurudev. I don't have time for this. He said, that's a real devotee.
I thought that mistaken logic where you were so much caught up about the origin is, I think, genetic fallacy. You're concerned about imposing an artificial conception of time on eternity.
Right, exactly. But these thoughts do naturally come to people. Guru Maharaj said, he conceded, it's a complicated thing. But that's why I say, look to Mahaprabhu's answer to Sanatan. 2 lines. Everything's there, and then it springs from there. You're the eternal servant of Krishna. That's true. But because you're tatastha in the margin, you can go this way or that way. And sometimes the Buddhas, you'll hear this, they'll go, well, if I knew what I know now, I would have never made that choice. Right? So like as if Krishna did something unfair. Right? But I'll say first of all I say, knowing what we know now about Krishna consciousness and all that, we still choose Maya. So that's not a valid argument, that if I knew what I knew now, I would have never chose.
And what do you know now?
But Guru Maharaj said like this, he gave an example about India and Pakistan. You know, Salman Rushdie wrote a book called Midnight's Children. So when the clock, this was in 1947, and Gurudev was there, Guru Maharaj Prabhupada. When the clock strikes midnight, after that, they will be Midnight's Children. So you have a choice. Stay in India, or there's this new country starting at midnight, after midnight, that will be called Pakistan. You can go there. And then you say, well, we don't know exactly what Pakistan is going to be. But some people think like, I think maybe that's where I will realize my good fortune, is in this new place, Pakistan. So he said it's like that. There's the spiritual world, material world, and you're presented with this option. Do you think you'll realize your potential through serving or by exerting your tendency toward mastership? And we're the group who said, I like the idea of being master, you know, not servant.
And I heard that one person said to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, can you tell me what my Siddha Deho is? What's my
eternal form in the spiritual world?
And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati answered, if you show it to me,
right.
Then I can tell you. What's my Siddha Deho? What's my spiritual form in the spiritual world?
But on Gurudev's veranda in Calcutta, one girl was very interested in Siddha Pranali. But Gurudev, first of all, he answered this very simply. He said, look, what is the word? Siddha Pranali. This is for the Siddha who are liberated. This is not a way to become liberated. These are practices by liberated souls, the Siddha section. But because she wanted to hear about this, like, we're gopis or manjaris in this world, and she's asking these questions and Gurudev shutting it down. Then at one point he said, make off the light. And she went to the wall and like turned off the fan, turned on some off, on, and then finally made the light off. And Gurudev said, for one who cannot make off the light, they should not ask about Siddha Pranali. Like that shouldn't be your question. First figure out how to turn a light switch on and off.
And also a statement is there, if you don't have spiritual practice, if you don't have devotion, if you're not free of all the anarthas of this material world,
yes.
And if you haven't really developed a loving relationship with the Lord, how can you have any conception at all of what your spiritual form is?
Yeah, because another meaning of anartha, the word artha also is defined as meaning or conception, and anartha also means misconception. So how can you have misconceptions and enter the world of pure conception? And Guru Maharaj said further, you know, the bhukti mukti siddhi kami, you know, sakala ashanta, the one about pisachi vridivartante. Anyway, saying where bhukti and mukti are like pisachi, two witches. And Guru Maharaj said in a very moving way, he said, how can you invite the divine lady, Bhakti Devi, to sit in your heart if these two witches, bhukti and mukti, are still there?
And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he talks, you know, you read the cleansing of the Gundicha temple.
Yes.
It's very interesting, everything that's being done.
The gross and the subtle.
Yeah, and getting rid. you know, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is talking about taking every, you know, removing all the unwanted things from your heart.
First the gross ones, remember, and then they go back a second time and get the more fine things, and he says those are the subtle things inside that have to also be eliminated.
So, and then
and Guru Maharaj said also, he said about anartha nivritti, he said, so all this stuff about bhava, bhakti, etc., he said, that comes after, and ruchi, ashakti, bhav, comes after anartha nivritti. And Guru Maharaj said this, a genuine Vaishnava will never think that he has achieved anartha nivritti. They won't think like, oh, I'm over that now.
So if you consider that you know that the Lord is in your heart, you know, that He's in the heart of every living entity. Sarvasya chaham riddhi sanivishto mata smritir jnanam apavanam cha. He's in everyone's heart. But if you have a deity, then how will you want to have the deity enthroned in his natural sitting place, right?
Yes.
Now the Lord is in your heart. So what will you do to actually receive the Lord in your heart and properly worship Him? You'll get rid of everything that's unwanted and all these bad habits and all these dirty things. And that's Srila Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is talking about in when he's explaining the cleansing of the Gundija temple. And there's nice commentaries in that chapter about the process.
And in this light, we could say, you made me think that Vishwanath says something interesting. Because remember, Balaram appears first in Devaki. Remember, then he's transferred to Rohini. So he says, remember, we're also told, as Ananta, he likes to be the throne, the Brahman thread, the umbrella. That's his service. So he said, even it's the heart of Devaki, first Baladev comes, and it's all like being prepared for Krishna, like the asan. And then he's transferred to, and he leaves behind Ananta as like asan. And he's transferred to Rohini. Then Krishna can appear. So what you made me think of, so then what would be the natural sequence to follow what Maharaj said? Then what should be our target first? The mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. Because then and Guru Maharaj said, then you have a strong foundation for Mahaprabhu's Krishna conception to be built upon. And therefore, Guru Maharaj, in his final days particularly, he's always going, Dial Nitai, Dial. He's crying out for the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. And Gurudev said once, he said, everyone knows that Guru Maharaj is Rupa Goswami's man. Like that, he said. So why is he always saying, Dial Nitai, who's Rupa Goswami's man? He's saying because but only by the grace of Nitai Karuna Habe Braje Radha Krishna Pabe, only by getting the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, then can this possibility be there, or these things be realized. And so what are we told? Guru is either considered as the representative of Nityananda Prabhu, or the delegation of Srimati Radharani, in those two capacities. But beginning with Nityananda Prabhu.
Yeah. Then, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Rida Yeshu Valokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Svarupam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. When you actually have eyes that are anointed with the
prem,
with the ointment of
Premanjana.
Premanjana, the ointment of prema.
The best Anjana.
Then you can see Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna.
The Achintya Guna Swarup of Shama Sundar.
Radha Sham Sundar.
Yeah.
You'll see Radha Sham Sundar in your heart.
Yeah, how beautiful is that? Anything else?
But the term,
Yeah.
but the term Godhead and back to
Yes.
Godhead, it's a nice term.
It is.
You know, it's your eternal home. It's your eternal place.
That's why most often Prabhupada Swami Maharaj used to say, back to home, back to Godhead. And he named his magazine Back to Godhead magazine. And if you look at the, the motto, or the, that runs beneath the running head? Motto, I think is the word. It's a translation of the Charitamrita sloka, Krishna Surja Samahoy Maya Andakar, saying, where it says, Krishna is like sun, Maya is darkness, and Krishna is like the sun. Where there is the sun, there is no darkness.
And the interesting thing is, back to Godhead, when you're there, you have never left.
Yes.
So, you know, there's many ideas that when you try to impose a linear conception of time on eternity, on spirituality, on devotion, you know, that it's not going to work.
And Bhaktivinoda says this too. In Jayavadharma, he says that examples, you have to catch the gist of an example. He said, otherwise you'll misconceive. And he gives an interesting one. He said, if you're just talking and you say, as milk is like water in liquidity, and you go on to say something, you get the gist. He said, but if you stop and go, wait, but in as many ways milk is not like water, then you'll lose the flow, the thread, and you're lost.
Yeah, someone, Srila Prabhupada once said that someone told him that, you know, in terms of preaching versus the vow of, what's the vow of silence?
Mona.
And then they said to him, an empty barrel makes noise.
No sound.
No, an empty barrel makes sound, and a full barrel makes no sound. Quiet. And Srila Prabhupada said, but are persons like barrels?
Right.
You know, how does that analogy relate to the actual condition of a person? Are people like barrels?
And the person doing the other version of that said to me once, he goes, when you eat something really good, you become silent. And I said, what? I said, if I eat something really good, I go like, wow, this is incredible. I don't go like, can't talk. The first thing we do is go, hey, did you try this? It's incredible, it's amazing. You begin with praise. And that's what Vishwanath said, this is the fault of the Gyanis. He said, although they're thinking and they understand the difference between the mundane and this and that, he said, they don't praise Krishna. They don't do kirtan, Gyanis. They have no praise for Krishna or his devotees. Just they're busy understanding this is spiritual, that's material, and dismissing everything.
So anyabilashita shunyam jnana karmadya navritam anukuyena krishna nushilanam bhakti rutam. You know, we reject that conception of jnana.
And Guru Maharaj said, when those layers of karma and jnana start to dissolve or vanish, then the swarup starts to be shown. Remember, show me your swarup. Remove the layers of karma and jnana, and then the guru can say, oh, sees the inner identity of that servitor and guides them in a particular way.
And Mahaprabhu is saying that, you know, na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam vajagarisha yakamai. He said, why is that a concern?
Right.
Why is that a concern of swarup, of one's position in the spiritual world? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is just asking to take birth in the association of Vaishnavas.
Right. Not as Brahma, but Bahirmukha Brahma Janme Nahiyash. I'd rather be he says, I would rather be an insect in the house of a devotee, like we see here while we're giving these talks. So many insects come. There's a frog who lives over here. A bat came last week. and they sit, and they're hearing about Krishna and Mahaprabhu. They hear some kirtan, they get a little prasadam. He's saying that is a better position than being the Lord of the universe if you're not a devotee.
It was strange when it was a little bit of misconception, but when I first came to Navadip and I'm in a room and everything, and I'm thinking, now I'm in the Dham and you shouldn't hurt any living entity.
Yeah.
And I saw almost like the three worlds in my room. On the roof was the spiders with their spider webs.
Uh-huh.
And if they caught anything, they'd wrap it up with webs and keep it there, and
they have a go down.
They sting the insect and wrap them up with web. You could see that.
Yeah.
And then on the walls was another level of
Lizards.
Existence. That was the tiki lizards.
Tikis.
And
like
they would hang out near the lights, and as soon as a bug came near that, they'd eat that bug. And on the floor was the ants, and as soon as some dead insect would fall to the floor, hundreds of ants would appear, and they carry the insect out. and I was thinking, you're not supposed to clean the spider webs off the ceiling, or so I'm seeing all these levels of existence within the. So,
yeah.
but Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that I'd rather be an insect in the house of a Vaishnava than to live without any devotional relationship with the Lord. Because even an insect in the house of a devotee, that insect, some way, the holy name will pierce their consciousness, or something.
And maybe Vaishnava Uchista, the remnants of a Vaishnav, maybe they were taking prasadam and something fell from their mouth or from the plate on the floor, and the servitors don't see that. Then later some ants come and they're taking that. They would do that by their nature and instinct, but now they're taking Vaishnava Uchista, which we're told is very powerful. Of the four things that are powerful, the remnants of a devotee will infect you with Krishna consciousness.
Or the dust of a devotee.
Yes. And Das Goswami in a famous one says, like Kita means inside, Yat Kinchit Kikatu Mukam Goshte Stamastamitab Sarvananda Mukunda Doita Lilanu Kulam Puram. He says in the Dham, the insect, like the bees, he said they're Mukunda Doita, they're dear to Mukunda because Lilanukul, they make the pastimes favorable. There's the lotus flower, the bees going in the lotus, they're all part of it. So he's saying they should also be respected.
And what's that prayer that's quoted in the Prapana Jivanamrita about the bees?
That one. This is very beautiful. I want to say this. They praise Hashapriya a little bit, like we were talking about him earlier. Hashapriya Prabhu, Janardan Maharaj is a charge in America, California, our SoCal ashram, and Hashapriya Prabhu is like the mott manager, I'd say. And they work very nicely together. But Hashapriya Prabhu, he does many things. And although he's very deep intellectually and an accountant and all that, he likes to do manual labor too. So he started keeping bees. You know bees, bumblebees, and honeybees, where you have to wear the hat and the whole thing and go out with the can and the smoke. So he wants to produce honey for the Seva ashram, and then for the deities, but also to maybe sell those bottles of honey. California, they will like organic, pure honey. It could be a little business to support the deities, Seva, and the ashram. So, and Srila Govinda Maharaj is visiting, and it's these two events coincide, that Gurudev is there, and it's time to harvest all the honey. So Hashapriya Prabhu organizes this big honey collection program to get all the honey from the beehives and put it in jars, and he wants to give the first jar to Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj. And we're thinking, everyone like, so he does that and offers it to Guru, and all the devotees are going like, Jai, Haribol, like how auspicious and happy and wonderful this is. And then Gurudev said, I am a little sad. Because he will always, you don't know, you can't predict what Govinda Maharaj will say at any given time. And everyone's going like, what? This is a happy time, all the devotees, Jai, Haribol. And he's going, but it is making me a little sad, Prabhu. And he said, and we were like, well, why? And he said, Guru Maharaj's sloka? I said, what do you mean, Guru Maharaj's sloka? And he said, and this is embarrassing to me, but he goes, you know that sloka? And I only know part, and I go like, no, Maharaj. And he goes like, oh, you know so many slokas and you don't know this one? And he said, it is the best sloka of Guru Maharaj. You know, he's like rubbing it in, like, you don't know the best one? Because it's his favorite from Prapanna Jivanamritam, and it comes at the end. And Lord, I hope I remember it now. Oh, Srimad Bhagavat Padam Bhuja Mad Dotsavai Shatpadai Nikkipta Marubendavas Chaparito Brashtat Mukhat Gunjitai Yatne Kinchirihahritam Nijapuro Sreyotina Tanmaya Bhuyo Bhuyito Rajangsi Padasam Lagnani Te Shambaje. So Guru Maharaj said, this book, after he's given all these slokas that he's collected from the devotees, he says, what is it like? He said, and it's poetry. So he says, Madhu Shatpadai. Shatpadai means 6 legs. So it's a poet who has 6 legs.
Bees.
And Madhu, and collects honey. Bees. So he said, Vaishnava Uchista, what is here? I'm collecting what the devotees have said about surrender and Krishna, Mahaprabhu, Radharani. But he said, and their madness, they're relishing these things. And they're like relishing that nectar, and they're so mad, lost in relishing the nectar, that some drops are coming from their mouth. And they're oblivious to that. And he said, and I am there, holding my hands, and the drops of nectar from the mouths of the devotees are falling into my palms. And I've collected that. And that's what I'm presenting to you. So he said, we're taking directly this honey. And that makes me sad. And then Hashapriya said, no, actually, the bees have their honey, and this is the remnants. And then Guru said, oh, then that is okay. But he didn't like the idea of taking it first. He said, rather, like Guru Maharaj's sloka, the devotees are relishing, from their mouths, something is coming, we're capturing that, and then we're relishing that.
Yeah, actually, in the Bhagavatam, when the Avadut is mentioning the kinds of
24 gurus.
Yeah, and one of them he mentions is the
honeybee,
or the honey thief, actually. The honey thief, and that's kind of what I think Govinda Maharaj was alluding to.
Yes,
that the idea these bees are making honey and not.
And we're stealing it.
We're stealing
before they get it.
Before they get it, we want to get. Rather, it would be nice that they're relishing and we're getting.
Their remnants.
Yeah.
But Hashapriya said, no, Maharaj, we gave a whole bunch of honey to the bees. They're fine, and this is the prasad. They're like, all right, then it's okay.
Yeah. It's like sometimes the artificial, comparison that, I won't go into my whole diatribe, but, when I talk about what people say, well, actually the milk that the cow is producing is meant for the calves, and,
Hare Krishna, and Prabhupada say, and all the extra is for human beings. I'll quote him. Many people talk about these things, and I cannot talk about it because I will eat, drink, sleep, milk until the day I die. Milk, yogurt, butter, ghee, Srikhand, kheer.
I remember when you came to remember when you came to SoCal,
And you and I were eating vegetables.
What you called butter Krishna food.
Yes. Because he would make steamed vegetables, we'd eat together, and I'd say, like, I can't do it. And then I'd like go get some butter and put it on the side. He'd go, what's that? I said, Krishna food. Because Guru said, and Guru Maharaj said, Krishna's favorite food is milk, and everything produced by milk. That's just clear. But Gurudev used to say, but how can he eat butter directly? And I said, well, when we were kids, we get cold butter and sometimes it's lumpy. We put it on bread and end up eating straight butter. It's actually pretty good. He said. But anyway, I was going to say, so some people, they try and make a case like why we should not take milk products, those who are in Krishna consciousness. And let's say Santa Cruz, but as a euphemism, the Santa Cruz area. And Janardan Maharaj said, Krishna's name is Govinda, not Soyvinda.
I said that Krishna's a cowherd boy. He's not a soybean farmer.
Right. Not Soyvinda, but Govinda.
But they'll say, "Oh, but how can you take milk? It's meant for the calves." Well, the cow actually is producing much more milk than one or two calves can take.
For
it's
sure.
Producing much more milk.
But I had a seva at Albert Road, number 3 Albert Road, long ago, and it would be a milkman would come every day to the temple and actually bring a cow to the temple and a calf. And my job was to make sure they don't water down the milk. And remember, you drank that milk on the veranda with Gargamuni and Achyutananda. So I would go to oversee this. And I got to see what they have on their shoulder a rope, a little rope. And what they do, there's the cow, and then they bring the calf and they tie around the cow's back legs so they don't move. Then they bring the calf, and the calf starts sucking the udder of the mother, and the milk flow starts. And they let the calf drink a little bit. Then they pull the calf away and tie him up separately, and then they go pss, 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 and all the milk comes out. So the point is, it's because of the love and affection of the mother for the calf that the flow of milk comes. That's the original system. And just to segue to this, the Guru, in this case, even in Gita, what's the famous verse? Gopala Dugdha Nandana. Krishna, what does it say? The Gita is like a cow, and Krishna's the milker of the cow, and Arjun's the calf drinking the milk. So we're told, the Guru, if the disciples don't inquire and have some necessity, then the flow doesn't come of the Hari Katha, the Krishna Katha. But if we have some genuine necessity, out of affection, love and affection for the disciple, then the flow of Guru comes.
Once I was in, I believe I was in Mexico, and a milk truck pulled up, and the guy takes these the aluminum buckets where they're milk, and he starts squirting in it from a hose of the water in the gas station, And I said to him, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm just washing the pot. And then he became a little ashamed, and he says, actually, I'm baptizing the milk.
Only in Mexico, right?
He used the words, I'm baptizing.
But in India, sometimes they put water in milk, don't they?
Yeah,
to drink it?
Sometimes.
We don't like to do that, but they do.
But sometimes the devotees make very thick dough, and then I put some water in, and I say, I'm
baptizing the
dough.
On that note, Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Who shall sing? Oh, tell us who's sending Dandavats.
Yeah, Dandavats from Monterey, Mexico.
Oh.
Arjuna?
No
Pitambar?
names are mentioned.
All right, but from...
Dandavat pronouns from Monterey, Mexico.
The leader there he's Arjuna.
Oh, but Ashram Maharaj would correct me and go, Monterey. You can say Monterey, but Monterey.
All right,
Then Suchitra Didi.
Suchitra.
Yeah, St. Petersburg, maybe.
San Francisco?
SPD. St. Petersburg.
Oh, St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg.
Mm-hmm.
Rashashwari Didi from Ivoti, Brazil.
Brazil.
Ananda Lila Didi from Kiev,
Kiev.
Ukraine. Purushottam Das.
From Salt Lake, I think.
Maybe.
Hare
what
Krishna.
does it say, Purushottam?
Purushottam Das.
He's in Salt Lake. I initiated him, Harinam.
Well, there's also a Purushottam in Morelia. In
I
Mexico.
believe this is Purushottam Prabhu in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
But we worship all Purushottamas. Leela Krishna name, Leela Purushottama. The Purush, what does it mean? Purush Uttama.
Best.
The supreme person, or the best person.
The best of the Purusha.
Yeah.
Superman.
Yeah, all right, I want to tell a story about that. In LA, and Srila Prabhu and Sanatani Didi and so many others used to be there, we had a Guru Kula with so many children, and a sociologist wanted to come and study like the children of the Hare Krishnas and get some insight to what they're like. So I was the president, I had to take this person around, like chaperone them. So I take her in this one room, and there are all these little boys and girls there. Like this thing. The boys all have shaved heads and sikas. The little girls look like gopis. They're like, you know. And this lady knows some things too about Gita, Mahabharata, and she's going around the room. And she goes, "What is your name?" You know, and they'll go like, "Krishna Das." Oh, you know, what is your name? And someone says, "Arjuna," and she goes, "Oh, Arjuna. Who is Arjuna?" And he goes, "He's a Maharati." And she says, "Oh, what is a Maharati?" And he says, "That means he can one soldier can fight with 100 men at one time and defeat them." And she said, "Well, I guess then that would make him Superman." And none of the kids laughed. They're like, and she says, "You know, Superman." And they're like,
Yes.
and she goes, "Does anyone know who Superman is?" And one kid goes, "Yes." And he goes, "He's a Karmi." And they all go, "All right." Yeah. Who will sing Hari Haraye? Gopal? You want to sing? No? Shall I sing? Or Janardan Maharaj? Or who? Is there any volunteers? Maharaj.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Lift the key.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra. Janardan Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Jiva Gopala
Srila Sundar Govindev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Vishnu Srila Ratak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Bhagavan Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandarika Giridhari Jiu ki jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Sri Rupan Guru Varga ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopna Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadip Dham ki jai. Shri Gupta Govardhan ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavarena Srilesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Bhavan Janardan Maharaj ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda ki jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Vimal Avadut Maharaj ki jai. Seva Brinda ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande.
Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Go Premanande.
Haribol.